worry, we'll be doing autographs after the show. You can find my music on all streaming platforms. Hey, church kids. Don't worry, I'll teach you guys a little diddly. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna get out your air guitar. You guys ready for this? Let me see the best air guitar that you have. Okay, we're gonna do this together. You guys ready? All right, that's right. We are gonna do a duet together, and I will put it on all of my streaming platforms. So, what was that, church kids? Oh, why am I dressed up like a rock star? Well, today's message is actually, the star of the show is a rock. So in my mind, I thought, why can't we all be rock stars, you know? So with that being said, I've got to get back to my show actually, but Mr. Damon is going to come on and share an incredible message with you guys. So I will see you guys next week.
Hey church kids, it's Mr. Damon, and as you can see, next to me is the world's most beautiful tower. And it was my idea. But we're gonna kick things off by going to the Bible. Now, church kids, do you know the Bible is not special because it's an old book or because it has special paper? Do you know the only reason why the Bible matters is because it points us to the one that matters. It points us to Jesus. That is what makes the Bible so incredible. It's not the words, it's the person. And so Jesus is going to talk to us today about our identity. So let's get into it. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, the Bible says this. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. And then in Luke chapter 6, verses 48 through 49, it tells us the story, and it says this. If you work the words into your life, you are like a smart carpenter who dug deep and laid the foundation of his house on bedrock. When the river burst its banks and crashed against the house, nothing could shake it. It was built to last. But if you just use my words in Bible studies and don't work them into your life, you are like a dumb carpenter who built a house but skipped the foundation. When the swollen river came crashing in, it collapsed like a house of cards, and it was a total loss. Church kids, have you ever tried to build a Jenga tower before as tall as you could? Or have you ever got all your Legos together and you tried to build a Lego tower on the carpet, but it just seemed to keep falling over? Or have you ever gone to the beach before and maybe the beach was sloped and you're trying to build your sandcastle super tall, but it just keeps crashing and burning? Why is that? I mean, my tower kept falling over too, till I figured out by myself, that it was actually the bottom part, the base of the tower that was causing it to fall. Well, what do you know? What we build our tower on top of is actually going to determine how tall we can build it, how successful it is. And do you know that a house has something called a foundation? Now, okay, here's a picture of a house, right? There you go. Now, what part of the house is the foundation? Is it this? No, that's a window. No, that's the roof. No, that's a refrigerator. What? That's the car in the driveway. That's a baby panda. What? No. Yes, there you go. That is actually a photo of the foundation. The foundation is the base of the house. It's what the house is built on top of. The foundation gives the house strength. In fact, Jesus talks about this, and he talks about your identity in a story. It's called a parable. And so one day, Jesus is walking along, and a crowd of thousands of people gather around him. Because once upon a time, there was a town. And this town was located on the seashore. It was right there on the ocean. And inside this town lived two men. These guys, they didn't know each other, but both of them happened to be builders. They made homes for a living. Elmer, the first builder, decided, all right, I'm gonna build myself a brand new house, and it's gonna be the best. and I want my house to have the most beautiful view of the ocean. And so Elmer walked out to the beach, and he turned around and he looked at the cliff above the beach, and he saw that people had built their houses on the cliff, and he's like, nah, I want my house to have the greatest view of the ocean out of anybody in town. As he kind of dug his feet into the sand, he looked around. Bing, light bulb. Elmer has this idea. He's like, if I build my house right here on the beach, every morning I could wake up and dolphins could bring me my coffee and breakfast. I'm gonna be the only guy that has the ocean right outside my front door. And so Elmer went and he showed up at Home Depot with a giant truck, and he bought all of his lumber and his tools and his nails and everything, and he got to work. Well, on the other side of town was our second builder. Filippo, at the same time, goes, I think I need a new house. So just like Elmer, Filippo goes to Home Depot, gets all of his equipment, just like the first builder. But unlike the first builder, who decided that he wanted his house to have the coolest view and to be the most enviable and to look great, Filippo was different. Because Filippo thought, you know, the most important thing to me is that my house is sturdy, that my house is strong. So instead of going to the place with the coolest view, Filippo went all around town, and he walked around, and he's like, looked at the beach, and he's like, yeah, a beachfront house would be cool, but no, it's sand. It's just sand. And then he went around and he saw this other area where there was a lake, but he's like, pushed on the ground with his foot, and he's like, God, it's kind of squishy mud. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna be strong. And then he went to another part of the town where he saw that it was actually bedrock. There was rock that was flat and solid. And he's like, yup, this is the place. So the truck came in, beep, 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 unloaded all the equipment, and Filippo got to it. But before he started building his doors and his windows and his siding and his flower boxes and his picture frames, before he got to any of that, Filippo actually got out a jackhammer. That's what a jackhammer sounds like. And he dug out the rock. And then he had a dump truck come in, beep, 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 and pour in all this cement. And Filippo, yeah, it took more time. It cost him more money. But Filippo built a foundation. And then he got to the walls, and then he got to the roof, and all of that. Well, right about the same time, both Elmer and Filippo's houses were done. And Elmer stood there on his front porch, and he watched a pod of porpoises go by and say hi to him, and like, he's like, hi, porpoises. He's like, this is the best. I have just created the greatest house that any human being has ever created. And he sat down in his chair and he watched the sun set over the horizon of the ocean. Well, he went back inside, got out his favorite book, and began to read. While at the same time, Filippo, on the other side of town, was sitting inside of his house, also sitting down in a chair, reading his favorite book. Well, as the night went on, all of a sudden the clouds started to get dark. Sun went away. Things got really dark. I mean, darker. Wait, yes, that dark. And all of a sudden, the wind started to pick up. And storm clouds began to roll in off of the ocean, and it wasn't just like happy storm clouds. This was like hurricane-class storm clouds. We're talking about the fact they named this storm, like Betsy. And Storm Betsy rolls in from the ocean, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 100-mile-an-hour winds slam into the sleepy seaside town. Rain starts coming down sideways. Lightning is striking everywhere, starting fires. People go crazy. And at the exact same moment, the winds slam into both Elmer and Filippo's homes. Boom! Oh! Elmer jumps up out of his chair. He's like, what's going on? Filippo does the same thing. He's like, wow! But guess what? Two very different things happened in that next moment. As Elmer stood up and dropped his favorite book, he saw a giant crack begin to form in the side of his house. Go right up to the top of his wall. And then in the next moment, as he looked up in horror, the wind rips the roof off of his house and he's like, ah! And rain starts pouring down in the middle of his home. And before he knows it, a tidal wave comes in off the ocean and kablooey! Obliterates Elmer's house. Oh my goodness, it's the worst. Now, the same thing probably happened to Filippo, right? Wrong. Because Filippo had decided to build his house on a strong, firm foundation. And yes, the same wind beat against Filippo's house. Yes, the same rain came pouring down. Yes, maybe some of the tidal waves reached his front door. But instead of being demolished, his house stood firm. And church kids, was it because Filippo was a better person than Albert? No! Was it because he had better posters of like Jigglypuff and Mario on his walls? No! It had nothing to do with what his house looked like, how much money he had. No, it had everything to do with the what? The foundation. The house was strong because the foundation was built right. And as Jesus is telling this story to this crowd of people, all of them are like, oh my goodness, this, what? And then Jesus explains what it means. And this is what he says. He says, my love for you, my words are your firm foundation. If you build your life, your identity on my words, what I say about you, your life is going to be strong, just like Filippo's house. Why? Because what you look like, what you have, what you can do, it was never meant to be your foundation. There's only one. It's Jesus. It's what he says about you. Church kids, Jesus says that you were created on purpose and with a purpose. Jesus says that he made you with a destiny, and you're going to do great things. Jesus said that you're important to him. So important that he left heaven and came down to earth and died and then rose from the dead. Why? Because that's how much you matter. And all of a sudden now, when we begin to see ourselves in light of who Jesus is and what Jesus says about us, it begins to do what? It begins to build a foundation for our life that we can actually put everything on top of. And when other people come to us and say things about us like, you're this or you're that, yeah, it's never fun to hear that, but guess what? It doesn't ruin us. Why? Because we already know who we are and what makes us valuable. Church kids, there are adults that still don't know who they are. They have the wrong idea about what makes them valued. Their identity has been built on the wrong thing. And Jesus is coming to you to tell you, I want you to know who you are and what makes you valuable even at a young age. But I just want to ask you a simple question. Have you found yourself worrying about what other people think about you? Man, I know I have. Have you thought about yourself and thought maybe, I don't like the way I look? Have you ever looked around and seen other kids that had maybe nicer shoes or nicer clothes and thought, I know I have. Church kids, do you know that Jesus wants to come and he wants to show you that none of those things are what make you valuable. You are valuable because he made you and because he loves you.